Fired up, and I know what you're wondering. You're wondering, is Greeny going to dance in the next 20 minutes? The answer is yes. All that is on the way, but we begin with this. The Steelers placed Ben Roethlisberger and 3 of his teammates on the reserve COVID list after they were deemed high-risk close contacts with tight end Vance McDonald. McDonald returned a positive test on Monday after playing 20 snaps against the Cowboys on Sunday. This obviously is of enormous import. The Steelers are the only unbeaten team left in the NFL. My insider, Dan Graziano, what is the latest?
The close contacts, Ben Roethlisberger and the other 3 players that were announced yesterday as close contacts, have to isolate for 5 days and continue to test negative for 5 days from their last contact with Vance McDonald, which we presume was Sunday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, this would be day 3. Thursday, Friday, if they test negative all those days, they could return to the team on Saturday and play in Sunday's game. This is all still possible. You should not assume that just because others have, for instance, Matthew Stafford last week, that it's automatic that they will. Alan Sills, the league's chief medical officer, told us on a conference call yesterday that there have been 3 cases where individuals in this situation where they were identified as close contacts, tested negative a couple days, and then out of nowhere tested positive. So it can happen. You have to pay attention to the results from each day and make sure they're on track.
But the comparison you made is a good one. Matt Stafford of the Lions was in almost an identical situation last week. He did come off the COVID list. He did play. He didn't play particularly well. I guess there's no way to know for certain if there was cause and effect. But Mike Tomlin said yesterday that if Roethlisberger is available to play, he will play.
He did. And now there's another thing. He hurt his knee in Sunday's game. So he's allowed to go to the team facility for treatment. That's in the rules. But there are very strict regulations when he can be there, who he can have contact with, which doors he can and can't use, etc. So he'll be able to get treatment on that knee. And it's possible if they cleared the COVID testing and the knee checks out, he will play Sunday. But obviously, a lot of questions still to answer.
Again, they're the last unbeaten team. Let me get the guys back in here. There's not a lot to speculate about, but there are, I guess, the simplest of possible questions. Ryan Clark, my former Steeler, I will start with you. If Ben Roethlisberger, for any of the reasons we just named, does not play Sunday against the Bengals and Mason Rudolph is the starting quarterback, Ryan, who wins the game?
You want to say the Pittsburgh Steelers, but listen, with the way the Bengals have played lately, Joe Burrow especially, this is a game that the Steelers can lose. When you look at what you saw last week against the Dallas Cowboys, without Ben Roethlisberger late in that game, I don't believe that the Steelers pulled that one out. And so now you insert Mason Rudolph. The thing that they do have, they have played with Mason Rudolph and a guy like Duck Hodges with this team constructed the way it was last year and went 8-8. But I think this game becomes exceedingly difficult if Ben Roethlisberger doesn't play, and this is an opportunity for the Steelers, who are undefeated to this point, have a hold on the AFC North and the first spot in the playoffs in the AFC, to lose it without Ben Roethlisberger, because it will be tough to beat a game Bengals team.
Yeah, it is an unprecedentedly significant year to be the number 1 seed. Remember, the playoffs as constructed, only 1 team would get a bye. The Chiefs are only 1 game back with only 1 loss. Dominique, who wins the game Sunday if Ben doesn't play?
Ryan is particularly hard on the ones that he loves, I think, because I don't think that the Steelers should be concerned at all, even if it's Mason Rudolph out there. That defense is really good. I think the Bengals have gotten a lot better, but it seems like the Bengals are a not very good team with a potentially great player, whereas the Steelers are an extremely talented team with a potential question mark at quarterback. I think the Steelers win this game.
They whipped Joe Lewis's tail. They whipped Joe Lewis. Hey, Tennessee Titans start the same thing.
Rocky Marciano.
Every
time we talk about boxing, somebody bring up Rocky Marciano.
We're not even 5 minutes in on a Wednesday, and it has begun. Okay, let's get to the next order of business. Again, Graziano will let us know if there's any further news during the show on Roethlisberger. Let's get to the Cowboys, because on Monday, Stephen Jones said that Dak Prescott is, quote, our quarterback, and the Cowboys are fired up about their future with him. Yesterday, Jerry Jones was asked about the possibility of picking a quarterback high in this year's draft. Listen.
You know, right now, it looks like we're in line for the 3rd pick. Now, it could move up, could move down, but if it stays at 3, is it crazy to bring up the idea of taking a quarterback with the 3rd pick, or the 2nd pick, if you may have it?
Yes. You asked me if it's crazy to bring the idea up, and I'm answering you, yes. We're playing games here, guys, but it's not the thing to be talking about at all. You know, Dak is our quarterback.
So that's what he said. Here are the percentage chances. They have a 6% chance of getting the top pick in the draft, that is behind the Jets and the Jaguars. Currently, they're projected to pick closer to 5th than they are to 1st, and we would assume 1 and 2 are the 2 spots where you would get the really high-profile quarterbacks in this draft, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. So should the Cowboys find themselves in a position where they could draft one of those 2 guys, RC, do you believe Jerry Jones when he says if they're sitting there with a chance to draft Trevor Lawrence, that they don't take him?
Hell no. You don't believe that either, Greeny. And that's why you asked me the question, because you knew you didn't believe it. You know what Jerry Jones is doing right now? He's being a great businessman. He understands where his team is and how, if you're on the outside looking in, you can see how valuable Dak Prescott is. And also, don't kick the man while he's down. He's at home. His ankle is broken. He wish he could be playing. He is saying the right things. But if you have an opportunity at 1 or 2 to get one of these young quarterbacks who, to me, are a lot closer in talent and a lot closer in projection and a lot closer in potential than people are making it out to be, Jerry Jones is definitely going to explore that. Right now, what he's doing is he's saying, you know what? During Dak's contract negotiations, I said everything I needed to say to make sure that he didn't get the contract I didn't want him to get. But now I can speak glowingly of him because we aren't in that space. Don't believe Jerry Jones. He's making sure the public in his locker room feels a certain way about him, but when it comes time to do business, Jerry Jones is going to do what's the best business for the Dallas Cowboys, not for Dak Prescott.
Okay, so I did expect you to say that, which then brings me to Dominique Foxworth, who doubles as the president of the Dak Prescott fan club on this program. So I want you to tell everyone, Dominique, just how crazy it would be to turn away from Dak and turn to Trevor Lawrence next year.
I mean, I wish I could tell you that. Like, I love Dak Prescott in part because most people were down on him when I thought he was better than who he was, when I thought he was better than people thought. But I'm not a fool. Like, if you have the number 1 overall pick, the way that people are talking about Lawrence, like, you have to at least give that a thought. So I think it'd be foolish because the difference between your team when you have a slightly above average to even much above average quarterback, which I think Dak Prescott is, to having a potential future Hall of Famer, which is the way people are talking about Trevor Lawrence, like that is huge for your team. So I think you have to at least consider it. And then you think about having Trevor Lawrence down there in Dallas. Can you imagine how much money that's going to make? 6'6" white Christian quarterback who can throw that thing in Dallas, Texas? Good Lord. Jerry Jones would run to the podium. Go ahead.
Dom, do you know what Dak Prescott feels like right now? Dak Prescott feels like you are Little Weezy and Ice Cube. And the people who need to know what that means, they know what that means. I cannot believe you have turned on Dak in the way that you have turned on Dak today.
I haven't turned on Dak.
Believe you.
I haven't turned on Dak.
That's why Greeny brought the question to you because
all I'm saying is that you have to consider it. I'm saying that what Jerry Jones said, I'm saying the same thing you said. Jerry Jones is lying or he's dumb. If you end up with the number 1 overall pick and the guy who is there is the most highly touted quarterback since Andrew Luck, then you have to at least consider it. Right.
Considering it is one thing, let me throw a different name into this conversation. And the name is Herschel Walker. Because once upon a time, the Dallas Cowboys built a dynasty by trading away a star player in Herschel Walker and bringing in a slew of draft picks that Jimmy Johnson turned into teams that won 3 championships. He only got to coach 2 of them. If you decide that Dak Prescott is, and Dominique, you're calling him an above average quarterback? I thought this season proved to us that Dak Prescott was far better than anyone thought because the team has fallen apart completely without him. You turn that number 1 pick into a treasure chest of draft picks and you win a championship or 2 with Dak Prescott as your quarterback. That, Dominique, is what I expected you to say.
Well, I mean, Herschel Walker falls into the Ice Cube and Wheezy category as someone else who we're all out on at this point. Sure. But I do also understand that as a strategy that you can go that route. But I do think that there's a difference. I think Dak is fantastic, but I don't think that Dak is Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that Dak is Patrick Mahomes. Like, I'm not delusional. Like, some of y'all was delusional in thinking that Dak was not as good as he was, and now I'm not going to be delusional and think that Dak is like
the other piece of that is this,
of the
though.
league. Like, if Trevor Lawrence, you believe that Trevor Lawrence can reach those heights, then you take that move. That's the only thing I'm saying.
RC, go.
I think the thing that scares me with the Trevor Lawrence thing is they're saying that he's the best quarterback or the best prospect since Andrew Luck. And as far as I remember, Andrew Luck was never the best quarterback in the NFL. Andrew Luck never carried his team to a Super Bowl. I guess some of that was injury and maybe some of the things that were around him. What we've seen from Dak Prescott is he is the Dallas Cowboys from a leadership standpoint and from a player standpoint. So I think it goes one of two ways. If you get a pick that high, you need to turn it into multiple picks. And so if Dak Prescott, to me, works out for you from a contract standpoint, you can get him in a place to where you can continue to build the team and you have a pick that high, I believe people are going to want that pick. People are going to give you a king's ransom for that pick. And I believe that would be the best business for the Dallas Cowboys.
I mean, the pick that turned into Jared Goff went for 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 3s. So, I mean, I can't even imagine what the pick that could be Trevor Lawrence would turn into. Now, Dan, educate everybody here because I had to ask you this morning. If they did decide to draft a quarterback and move on from Dak Prescott, could they trade Dak? What happens with Dak?
They would have to franchise tag him and then trade him, or sign him and then trade him. And so it becomes difficult, especially once you've made the pick and everybody knows.